Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, today we're going to talk about two subjects. The first one being corruption, and we'll get to the second part. Well, what is corruption? Corruption is when you have to basically lubricate the process which is supposed to be complete right. Which means like going to get your uh, some sort of task that you have to do as a citizen, like getting your driver's license. In India, that can be an adventure, um, which was an adventure for me. I recently acquired my second India-based driver's license. Uh, when I say recently, I mean a couple of years ago, which was the Haryana driving license. Um, and corruption has been removed uh, quite significantly from the process because I didn't need to take the corruption path because they have kind of you know put some systems in place which are helpful. Initially, it was never like that, and which has given the Haryana license a reputation in India. So, for example, when companies hire drivers and the drivers have a Haryana license rather than a UP license, then they give it much more value because they know that it's been systemized somewhat. And I'll give you a couple examples. So I won't go into the initial thing because the initial thing was difficult, but I'll just skip a couple of steps ahead and do the actual process I went through, which would be closer to what a normal person would go through. So the first day, I had to approach a counter which had several queues, and I was standing in the queue, and you know, then realizing that, hey, wait a minute, my turn's not taking place, so I had to shove a bit and scuffle a bit and this and that, and sort of voice my concern. It's my turn, etc. And eventually, yes, got that stamp. Yes, you have paid your fee, and you can move to step number two. What is step number two? Go away. Right. So yeah, step number two is to go to another office in the same vicinity, and now you have to give them a blood type, and I had no idea of my blood type. Luckily, I was carrying my wallet, and it had an old card from New Zealand when I donated blood, and we worked it out, and then yeah, so that happened. That's the medical office, so they do your eye exam and this and that. Then you get that next stamp and uh, another fee payment or something. Then you are ushered to, now go and do your driver's test. And then I said, okay, fine. So now this is basically day two because I don't want to discuss day one. That's another realm, and that's a bit too personal. So this is day two now. So day two, I quickly because I'd gone there fairly early in the morning with a nice gentleman who uh, basically took me in his little car. He was not a rich man and things, and it was very nice of him to spend all this time helping me out. And then they said, well, basically at midday the driving test thing opens. And so we went there about 11:30 and parked our car in the queue. And we were about behind 20 cars who had arrived earlier than us to do the driving test. And so we waited. We sat in the car initially at about 12:30. We were supposed to open at midday, so about 12:30, we said, "Oh, let's go get some water and things." And so we went, and there were little. What I really like about India is those little shoplets that are everywhere, where you can get your little basic amenities like bottled water, and they sell bottled water, they sell little snacks, and cigarettes and things, and just things that just help you pass your time. So yeah, there was a couple of those near the driving test area, and that it was a big caged area sort of thing, and so we sat in the tree next to that little area, and then the uh, you know it killed our time, and but this thing now the gate finally opened about 3 o'clock. So now we had been there for 3.5 hours, killing time. So it's supposed to open at 12, opens at 3, and the cars start going in. And I go walk up to the cage, and I'm looking in and seeing what's happening. And they basically drive down and they hand their paperwork, the same paper I was holding, all stamped everywhere, stapled this and stapled that, and bureaucracy. And then then finally my turn came, like moving through the queues. And I was watching all these incompetent drivers just doing really bad stuff. And I don't know if there was any corruption involved there. Just don't know whether they were getting a stamp or not. I don't know. I drove down, and the guy asked me, he said, "Have you driven before?" I said, "Yes, I've got driver's licenses from several countries." And he said, "Okay, fine, just drive out the circle." He's just stamped. You're done. Then I said, "Okay, now what do I do?" So he said, "Now you just walk back to the office," because this was about 100 meters from the place that I'd spent the last 2 days doing the thing. So now this day 3. So I said, "Okay, great." So I drove out, went out my circle. And, that was the driving test. It was basically drive around and come out. In between, I got a little lost. I said, "Oh, yeah, this is not, okay, reverse. All right, come on here." And then I came out and took my paper, and behold, the office is closed. Now this is 4:30 in the afternoon, and the office is closed. Come back the next day. So finally, the next day, I got a driver's license made, and then the first thing we did was get it laminated, and get a couple of copies made, because that's always important, in India. In case you lose it, and the copies look exactly like the original. So, anyways, so because there's no electronic scan now or any chip built in or anything, but which is good actually, healthy. Stay away from all those control systems. Well, that's control system, and now we've gone back to corruption. So what is corruption? Well, like I said, it's that process of getting some task done. And this example I gave was corruption free, and which gave the license value. It carried some value in it, and people recognize that value. There are huge corporations that in companies like the Japanese firms and Korean firms that are building cars in India and etc. And they have their staff and executives driven to and forth from the factories to their apartments and luxury apartments and things like that. So they need that stamp of approval that this is actually valid. So good on you, Haryana, for making a 4-day process give some value, right? Now, Another form of corruption is when money is financed for a project. So you are going to build a bridge, and the government says, okay, we are going to give you $10 million to build the bridge. And they start the construction, and then they go, oh, wait a minute, we are halfway through and $10 million is gone. And, we need another, $7 million. And the government goes, here's another $7 million. Okay, it's not, now it's gone, 5 years down the track where it's 5 years late. Oh, we need another $6 million. Here's $6 million. Blah, blah, blah. And finally, the bridge happens. And you have to wonder what happened in that entire process. Well, the first flaw in the process is that the consultancy flaw, which is when you task a company to say, this is what first of all, you will basically, there'll be a government tender. And the tender will say, you can approach us with your various proposals, and we will look at it. And now, if there's corruption in that stage, that's the dangerous corruption. That's when you will hire a company that is incompetent, but the trickle down effect is coming back to the person who's doing this. So, say you're the head of infrastructure in the government department, or you are the minister himself, and you know that if I give this task to one of these companies, and the government says, and I say, okay, it's going to cost $10 million, using the previous example, then about $500,000 is going to go into my pocket, and then that company will be granted the contract. Now that's the dangerous side of corruption, because how that should be tasked is the person in charge should actually be getting the most competent company, infrastructure company, the best engineering company to actually handle the task. That is the first step. That's and then the second and third steps are various things like material acquisition, actual construction, all that kind of thing. The best companies will project the construction costs the best way. The worst companies will just undercost themselves. They'll say, okay, just going to cost $10 million, when another company, which is really good, will come in and say, look, prices of steel, prices of labor, prices of there's possible time delays, weather conditions. They will put all those things in the book, and then they will say, it's going to cost $17 million. And if the government goes, we'll take the $10 million guy and we won't take the $17 million guy, then that's the incompetence in corruption. So, for example, what I'm trying to say is that the results are more important than the actual corruption. So, in that scenario, what if the bridge is built beautifully and it was just done magically, and it was there was cost overruns of maybe 10%. That's all. And there was 10% corruption. The public is still better off. But if there's 15% corruption, and the bridge takes 5 years longer to build, and is shabby, and is dangerous and a hazard to the public, then you have to really, that's the bad corruption. That's the really bad side of it, because it's about results. So, okay, now in both those corruptions, what are the solutions? Well, the first solution is competent heads of government. The second solution is systems. I'm a systems person. That's how I think. That's how my brain works, and that's how I got my training as well. So systems are the most important thing, because if a system is designed beautifully, then there cannot be any corruption. If you design anything with a completely thorough system in place, right from the database infrastructure, what information is stored, to the human computer interaction, then there is just no possibility of corruption. It's just like, I don't know, the examples can be huge and in depth, and I don't want to go to that in this video. I just want to just throw that across and say that they are very good designers of systems. Like, you have to just take any worldly example of, you know, and know that, it's impossible, because you have reduced some of the human side of it. You can't say, okay, this is one system and this is second system, and in between they are humans. Then you are putting a value for corruption. So if you saying, for example, you say, okay, I purchased something here, like, I don't know, a train card that I just swipe to get on a train, and on the other end I have, where I can fill the train card, but these two have been somehow removed from each other. So now I have to go, I want to pay my train card. Well, you have to go and get this check done from here. You have to go and get this done here, and then you have to go back here. Then, how do I just make the process smoother? Well, go and pay the guy in the middle. That's what I'm saying. So systems have to be thought out thoroughly. And sorry to say, India, you are really lacking in that, because of the incentive of the people in place. And the incompetence of the people in place, who don't think right. They don't think that. They don't understand that it's just a system. They just accept it. They just go, this is just the way. That's the way it happens. So yeah, can corruption be completely wiped out? No, it can't. It's almost near impossible. That's why I'm saying no. It's not a morbid or sad answer. It's the reality. Now you just have to look at Hillary Clinton to know that corruption is fairly significant everywhere in the world. You just have to, if you are a competent person in power, you just have to minimize it. That's all. You just have to place systems in place so that corruption doesn't occur at every level of society, that it's a stressful thing for citizens. That's where you have to really nip it in the bud. Number two is land reform. India needs severe land reform. You need to systemize it powerfully. But there's again power in play that doesn't want that done. It's not a hard thing. That's one of the easiest things to reform. Not saying, like land reform is in the historical, like, Chinese communist government thing, where they just took land of people and made it government. I'm not saying that. I'm saying is, like, when you own a property, you should know exactly from what point and to what point I own it, and from exactly what marker to what marker I own it. And they have surveyors that can do that very easily, and nobody else can just come in there and take over your property, which is the one of the biggest issues, the land mafia. That's basically where you purchase a land, and have I actually purchased the land? I mean, I don't know. I paid a lot of money, but I've got papers, and then somebody else comes along and says, I also own this land, and the third person comes in and says, I also own this same land. And then you take it to court, and 20 years later, nobody's got a proper result. That's the sad part of it. If you can systemize that process, then you will build confidence in investors. Because investors in India, they're always investing in apartments. But, an investor could say, I want to purchase some land, and then possibly when I refinance in a couple of years, I will build some sort of industry on that land. Maybe a fishery or whatever. Maybe some storage facility. But I have to know that I can go into India and I can purchase a block of land and I can just walk away after that. I can be safe and nobody's ever going to touch it. There's not going to be, not that I come back a year later and there's a whole horde of people and that's it. It's over for me because if I take it to court, then my grandchildren will still be arguing in court about who actually owns the land. That's the second thing. So I'm not trying to make this video too long and it's already gone 20 minutes. So sorry guys, but I'll have to cut it short. More entertainment coming next time. This is SDK and thanks for watching. Give me your comments below. Suggest solutions. Be part of the movement. InnerDiplomat.com. Thank you.